Welcome Facebook Live. Daniel Bush here, joined by Lisa Desjardins and Pamela Kirkland in the PBS NewsHour studio here in D.C. Please send us in your questions as we continue our weekly, still unnamed politics live stream segment.
Send name
in fact,
ideas.
send us in name ideas. So let's start off with the big news, campaign news of the day, which is the Trump campaign shakeup. Another campaign shakeup, Lisa. What do you make of this?
Yeah, that's right. So Donald Trump obviously is having problems in the polls, although he says he's doing very well with his crowds, which is true. He's still getting very good crowds. Paul Manafort is remaining as his campaign manager, but he's bringing in a new team, including the current leader of Breitbart News, a man who's a former Navy officer and who is someone who is known for kind of, as we've seen some reporting from Robert Costa today, just street fighting of politics. And I think this appeals to who Trump believes he is in his core, someone who's going to go out there and say whatever he wants, throw punches at Hillary Clinton. And I think we should expect that kind of street fighting more from the campaign now. Maybe he still will read from some teleprompter, but
exactly.
He'll pause and let out a punch and then go back to the teleprompter.
Yeah, I think we've thrown conventional wisdom out the window for this election, but if we've learned one thing, it's that Donald Trump is going to be Donald Trump. So the campaign shakeup, like you said, these are people who seem to, I don't want to say agree with his personality, but maybe are able to manage his personality a little bit differently. And we'll probably see him on teleprompter a little bit, but he likes going out there. And according to the Post and the Wall Street Journal reports yesterday, we know that this campaign shakeup was Trump trying to get back to the Trumpisms and use the teleprompter less and go after Hillary Clinton maybe even a little bit harder than we've seen in the past couple of weeks. So we'll see.
But we don't know is Paul Manafort's role, how strong it's going to be or not going forward.
And I mean, what does this do for Republican insiders who for a long time have been calling on Donald Trump to pivot to be more presidential, whatever that means exactly, to sort of broaden his message? And he's bringing in the person who, has been a attack dog on the right, a Breitbart News person. Does that sort of signal that he is, as you said, just going to continue doubling down? And is that what Republican insiders want out of their nominee this late in the game?
Easy answer, yes. He's definitely doubling down. We're seeing that in general this week with Trump. But I also think I don't want to get too far. This is hour, 6 of the campaign shakeup. And I think that whenever you see a campaign with tremendous amount of problems, a campaign where you have a phone call with 50 members of Congress, as the Trump campaign did this week, and all of those members are saying, we're worried about your campaign, you're going to see a change in leadership. Sometimes that is substantive. Sometimes it really changes a campaign. Sometimes it's just an attempt to get a reset and to say, hey, voters, look at us now. We're different. Why am I doing the robot? I don't know. But but I think that's what's going on here.
Yeah, totally agree.
So please, send us in your questions. Let's pivot from there to something that's sort of lost in all this campaign shakeup news, which was Donald Trump's unusual speech yesterday about policing, about violence in communities. And the speech really struck you, Lisa, as sort of a departure or something new. What was interesting about it?
Yeah, Dan saw, as did much of our newsroom, my late night email saying, whoa, this is a speech we really need to pay attention to. Donald Trump in the past, in fact, I believe it was in the last month, said, I am the law and order president. That was the first he'd said that. He's been moving on this front for a while, but last night was when he really laid down a very concrete foundation of what he means. He's pushing back against protesters. He never used the phrase Black Lives Matter, but that seems to be what he was talking about. Now, of course, we have seen protests and in some cities also occur along with rioting or looting in those cities. Donald Trump is connecting those two. He's basically saying that he sees the protesters as rioters and looters. He's not disconnecting them. And he had this one quote that I thought was so important. He said last night, our job is not to make life more comfortable for the rioter, the looter, the violent disruptor. Our job is to make life more comfortable for the African-American parent who wants their kids to be able to safely walk the street. Donald Trump is trying to expand his base here, which we know he needs to do. He's trying to appeal to African-Americans. But what's so fascinating about that sentence to me, guys, our job is to make life more comfortable for African-American parents who wants their kids to be safe. We know there are many African-American parents who are in these protests who feel their kids are not safe because of the police. And so Donald Trump does not seem to be considering that argument. He is making a different 90s style Rudy Giuliani argument about
And of course, Giuliani
increasing-
was with him yesterday. He's
and
been
he's
advising
quoting
his
him
campaign.
exactly, and he's basically saying we need more police, tougher policing, increased police powers, and I'm just going to be fascinated to see where this argument goes because he is doubling down. He's making it a focus of his campaign.
Yeah, and the speech last night to me was interesting for a couple different reasons. But one, location. He talked a lot about Milwaukee. They were 40 miles outside of Milwaukee in West Bend, which is an area of Wisconsin that's 95% white and 1% black. He talked a lot about the black community, I think more than we've heard him in the past mention them. But it was also interesting because it's almost conflicting messages. When you're talking
Right.
about this law and order message that he's been pushing for the past couple of weeks, it doesn't resonate very well with the black community versus the white working class voters that it's really resonating well with. So I think when you hear the law and order message paired with the outreach that he was talking about last night to the African American community and how he wants to, help these parents and protect this community. It was almost like conflicting messages, and
Yeah.
I don't know if it landed well.
He says, I'm the unity candidate, but then he says
Exactly.
these things that to
That's interesting.
minority groups
Yeah.
sound
Yeah.
like they're divisive.
And at the same time,
Yeah.
he was invited to speak in front of NAACP, the National Urban League,
Yeah.
NABJ, and NAHJ in the last couple of weeks and hasn't done that. So it was interesting to see him talk about these issues in a community that has a very small black population.
That's a good point. So you're saying essentially that in these moments when Donald Trump tries to quote unquote reach out to the black community, he's actually showing up with a message that is antithetical of that purpose. It's a message
Yeah.
that's appealing to a very separate group of voters.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
at the same time, we have a question from Twitter from Christian who says, is there a chance more Republicans might withdraw support at this point? I think it's interesting, guys, in the last couple of days, we've seen a few Republican Senate candidates say, I'm voting for Trump, I'm not endorsing him. We've seen it go a little, I wonder if we're reaching equilibrium for the moment, depending on what else Trump says and does on the Republicans pulling their support. But I like this question because I want to send it to you, Dan, who has done my favorite nerdy thing yet of the campaign, which is you went through last night and looked at every state in the nation, how those states have voted, going back to 1976. And he did, guys, I wish I could show you this amazing color-coded, wild 1960s looking
I spent a lot of time
spreadsheet.
coloring in
Yes, you
between
did
the lines.
exactly, choosing your colors. I don't know about your burnt umber use, but
That's right.
but tell us what you found and what that tells you about the map right now.
So we talk a lot about swing states, and we'll get into this in a little bit in Virginia, where you've done some reporting, Pam, recently. But we talk about Ohio, we talk about Pennsylvania. But if you go back to 1976, the last 10 elections, an interesting pattern emerges. There are only, in fact, 4 states that have swung back and forth in the last 5 elections.
Wow.
That doesn't include Pennsylvania, which has voted Democrat every single time since 1992. Those states are Florida and Ohio, which have been in play, and Colorado and Nevada, which have now voted Democrat the last 2 cycles. And Clinton has a sizable lead in Colorado already. The polls in
Wow.
Nevada are a little bit closer. But right now, she stands to win those 2 states. Now, if Democrats add those 2 states to the larger universe of their states that have voted Democratic for the past 5 cycles, you see a picture emerge where in 2020 and beyond, the party will start each cycle with roughly 257 electoral college
Wow.
votes. That makes it very, very hard for Republicans right out the gate to even have a fighting chance.
And so just to recap what you said, because that was a lot, and you and I have been spending a day basically talking about
Right.
it. So hang with us, Facebook. Basically,